Welcome to the Rusted Garden. I'm starting a new series on houseplants and succulents, and today's all about planting your first succulents and really how to set up the potting soil. It's very different than stuff I've shown you on my channel about growing vegetables. You don't want moisture holding soil for your succulents. We're going to transplant a couple of these. These are different succulents you can get. I got these at Home Depot. They're probably about $4. In future videos, I'm going to show you how you can propagate them because they are kind of expensive. They're really easy to propagate. These are good to get under my grow lights, and I'll be doing a video on that down the line. But we're going to put in 3 of the different succulent varieties into here. I'll show you how to do that. And we're also going to pot up probably the Jade. The Jade is what's most common and probably known to everybody. This is a succulent, and it's going to go into a clay pot too. The seed starting mix. Well, you can go ahead and you can buy a bagged mix. This is for cactus, palm, citrus, potting mix. Good for succulents, and the whole key is it says right here, fast draining formula. You don't want to get the other bags of potting mix that are designed to retain water, and they even have different things in there to retain water. You want it to be really dry. However, this is not dry enough for me. Even though it says right there, great for succulents, this is how I like to do it. I get the bag mix, it's great for a start, and I actually open it up and I let it completely dry. You don't want waterlogged succulents. You don't need to water these, of course, every day. You don't even really need to water them once a week. They retain most of the water just about in their leaves, and they're designed for well-drained soil and very little watering. I like to mix in perlite. This is volcanic rock that is heated to a high temperature. It kind of is like puffed rice. And what I do is basically mix a 50-50 mix. We'll use this for the first plant. I use the Terra Cotta pots. You want a pot that has a drainage hole. It should drain. You never want water sitting in here. Why? Because they can rot very easily. They don't have massive root systems. All the water is held in the leaves. And if you have too much water in there, it can bring in fungus. It can bring in fungus gnats. The roots rot, and then the plant, you'll just see the leaves drop off. So about 50% of the mix, and I put a coffee filter down there just to keep all the dry mix from falling through. And then I almost do about a 50% of the potting mix for succulents, and then 50% of the perlite, and just mix it up really loose. There's all kinds of different materials you can use. You can put in small pieces of gravel and all that. So we're going to start with, let's start with maybe this one, and you want to measure, just drop in enough of your mix and then see where it's going to level off. We're not going to go above the surface level here. So I do like this one. I'm going to drop this one right in here. I'm also going to leave enough room on top in case there's a problem. I'll talk about that in a second. Let's go with the fuzzy variety here. And I've taken off a couple of the leaves. You can just break them off, and then they can actually sit on your dried mix just like that, and they will propagate themselves. That takes anywhere from 3 weeks to 5 weeks depending on temperatures and different things. I'll do that. I'll show you about that in a future video. And maybe we'll go with this for a different color. Same thing. You can just twist off the lower pieces, sit them in here. I'll arrange that better. But in about 30 days I'll be doing a video on propagation. I'm going to remove this one. That one's all dried. And then you're just going to lightly fill in around it. Everything is dry. The starting mix is dry. I let these dry out a little bit. I don't like using wet roots and moist starting mix when I set these up. I like to be able to move these around. And just get them into place. Just blow off some of the dirt that I got on there. And that's all you need to do to set that up. Watering, we'll talk more about that in future videos, but I'm just gonna squirt some water right at the base, and that's enough to get them established. I'll let this go for a week. You want them to be in indirect light. You don't want full sun coming on here. All right, let's do the Jade. Excuse me, inhaled some of the dried starting mix. Same thing, clay pot. Set the bottom, or put in enough soil to bring this up to about here. Maybe a little more perlite. The biggest failure people have is that they overwater their succulents and they just rot, and it's a problem. You don't need to overwater these. The Jade will get dropped right in here. You can see all the roots came through too. Again, this is pretty dry. Clean out anything. I took some leaves off of here already. It's just going to be dropped right there. In this container, some of the dried mix, some more perlite. Mix it up, and we're good to go. I want to raise this a little more to about there. Just hold it in place. If you need a little bit more, just make it. And the Jade's good to go. Same thing. I just give it a water just like that. That's enough to get it started. Let it go 7 days. Just get used to the transfer. Not too much shock is going on, but you don't want to overwater these while you're transitioning them to new pots. Now, fungus gnats are really common in your home. And again, I grow all my stuff in my house. If you could grow some of these outdoors, or you would grow them a little bit differently. But indoors, they need a good, probably at least 8 to 10 hours of indirect full sun. So like a south-facing window where the sun doesn't beam in, but it just stays bright for at least 8 hours is really important. If your succulents aren't getting enough light, instead of being compact and leafy, they stretch out, and that means you're not getting enough light, but we'll talk about that in future videos. Now, because the soil is meant to drain and stay dry, you usually don't get fungus gnats, but it's a possibility. And one thing that you can do, and this is for all your houseplants, I'm going to be doing a video on planting your houseplants, is you can get sand. This is green sand, it's just a different type of sand, but you could use play sand. And you could put a barrier of sand around the top. What that does, especially for indoors, and if you have a history of having problems with fungus gnats, is it creates another dry barrier. Fungus gnats look for moist soil to lay eggs on the top, and then, let me just change that position a little bit, and then they lay eggs on the top, the eggs hatch, the larva crawl down to your root systems of your plants, and it eats the plants. And you could just do that. It looks kind of cool. It's a nice green sand, creates a nice dry barrier, will stop fungus gnats from laying eggs and keeping the cycle going. If you did this a little bit deeper, you could put some gravel on top of here if you don't like the look of the sand, but creating a nice barrier of dryness is what protects your plants from fungus net infestations. Alright, should we do one more real quick? Oh, you know what? I'm out of the perlite, but we'll just go ahead with this. You don't have to be perfect when you grow your garden, when you take care of your houseplants, or when you grow succulents. But you have to follow the principles. If you overwater these and you keep everything too moist, they're going to die. Clean out the dry dead leaves. Also, when you're buying these from stores, you never know what you're bringing home. So I like using the sand barrier on a lot of my house plants. We'll take that one off too. Again, I prefer a looser soil with the perlite, but this will work perfectly fine. There's drainage in the bottom, and there's a tray. If you're setting up these different pots, you're going to need a plastic tray underneath to catch the water so it doesn't spill out onto your furniture, especially if you're growing them all indoors like I do. The succulents can be a little bit expensive, but you can propagate them. And they're really good at it. Because there's so much moisture stored in the leaves, this just falls to the ground. Roots will come from the tip, but also the new plant will grow right from where it breaks off of the plant. You just have to be patient. These actually go in my grow closet with 12 hours of bright light, 12 hours of darkness. And there we go. We just took care of 3 different succulents. The whole key is a soil that drains nicely and don't overwater them. First day in, just giving it some water. And that's all you have to do. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a twist if you've been following me for vegetable gardening, but if this is something you're interested in, this is video number 1 of really 2019. I'm going to take care of a video series for succulents and houseplants all through 2019. Thanks for watching. Please check out my seed shop at www.therustedgarden.com. Thanks for watching.